Now, I just want to talk just a little bit. I'm not one who is really strict about uh, form and things like that. I always tell everybody, don't lose your beautiful thought or don't miss the message of your poem by trying to kick it into some form or another. Now, you got to learn forms because if you enter contests, you're going to have to do them the way the contestant, the judge wants them done. But one little thing about form, I'm going to tell you about the two best loved poems probably in America. And one of them is right, just going to read the first stanza. We're not going to get into a long poetry reading here today, but the first one is the famous one by Robert Frost. In fact, the poem that probably made a poet out of me, "Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening." And most everybody's heard it. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch the woods fill it with snow. All right. Now, another, probably even more famous, or at least equally famous, and I had to memorize both these when I was in school, and I don't know if they still do that in schools these days, but listen to Paul Revere's Ride. First stanza. Listen, my children, and you shall hear the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. Why those 2 points? Now, if you give it a listen, if you listen to the Robert Frost poem, and I tell you what, you can say it as fast as you want to, or as slow as you want to, and invariably you're going to hear whose woods these are. I think I know. I don't know if you can hear that. These are. I think I know. Now that's supposed to be horse hooves clapping. All right. So if you at the first line, you have 4 syllables, 8 syllables. That's uh, tetrameter, 4 iambs. We'll talk about that some other time. But uh, if you listen, every time you say a syllable in that, it's like a horse hoof hitting the ground. And if you'll notice, there's 8 syllables. So that means the little horse that he was riding is taking 2 steps in each line. And it's all the way through the poem like that. Now, listen to the Paul Revere. Listen, my children, and you shall hear the midnight ride of Paul Revere. And and what we see there is there's not even the lines are not the same length. The syllables, the words, they just seem random. But if you take that uh, number of syllables in that stanza and add them up, it will be divisible by 4. Now, why is that important? Because even though we could hear in Robert Frost's poem the horse taking those steps, because you can hear that when a horse is walking and you can count them. But if a horse comes running by, you know it's taking 4 steps every time it moves, but there's no way you can count them. But if you add these up in this first stanza, and it seems random when you look at it on the paper or when you read it, but when you look, you see that the number of syllables in that stanza is divisible by 4. Now, what that tells us, there's no way that no matter how slow you read the Longfellow poem, it's still in your mind going to sound like a horse running. And it'll do it every time. You see? So that's why, even though I'm not a stickler about poem, about poems, I mean, I love blank verse and free verse and all that stuff, and I wrote a lot of them. But sometimes the form you put in a poem really helps to add to what you're reading.